It didn't take long for everyone to get dressed and ready for the day, while everyone else, being Delius, Mozarico, and Jirara, teleported back to the outer worlds, Mozarico taking the shuttle that she brought along with her, and Asa electing to stay on the surface in order to continue her research, aided by a few tools that Delius asked be left with Asa on behalf of Mozarico, who agreed to do so for the benefit of her fellow gods. And as soon as Delius touched down on the surface, there was a crowd of scientists, military individuals, and politicians waiting for him, as they immediately escorted him, as well as Jirara along his side, to the location of the Interplanetary Council meeting. There, a very long and in-depth explanation of Hagara, its physiology, its energy, and all of the aspects pertaining to both Hagara and its offspring that they had gathered and spent a great deal of time researching was put on full display, with heads of scientific research, biology, and many other fields all gathered to examine the data in great detail. After everything was said and done, one of the delegates for one of the outer worlds orbiting Hagara stepped forward. Okay, can someone simply explain to me how much time we have? I need straight facts, details, not scientific jargon that my mind can't comprehend. Tell me, what is our worst case scenario? One of the scientists who had been doing the research and development stepped forward. Well, to be honest, we don't really have the information to dictate a worst case scenario. It seems like things are bad no matter how we cut it. According to the scans that we took, the offspring, or Hagara's efforts to try to sustain it, are dwindling away at its food supply and its energy reserves, and still not meeting the satisfactory requirements for the infant's nutrition. Our best estimates place Hagara's awakening within the next 60 years due to the increased demand of the offspring. And that's if it carries through to what we believe would be fruition, the birth of the child. But that's if the child continues to receive nutrition at the level it is currently receiving it. We believe that Hagara's offspring is actually, undernutritioned, highly emaciated, and its life signs are weakening. At the current level, we do not believe that the offspring will make it to its birth. But that isn't exactly good either. We have no way of anticipating how Hagara will respond if its offspring dies. The creature may become enraged. It may lash out in sorrow or anger. We have no way to comprehend it. And then, on the other side of things, if things do go well for Hagara and its offspring, and it somehow either reaches fruition or acquires nutrition enough to attain a more stable state, the chances are Hagara will awaken even sooner in order to birth the fully fruished offspring, no longer emaciated. In this case, the most likely scenario is that either the offspring, Hagara, or both of them will do as they naturally do. They will devour every planet in the system, every star, in order to feed themselves and ensure their own survival, as any living creature would. It considers our planets its food. It gathered them, it created them, solely to provide sustenance for itself. Our existence is just a byproduct. But we have spoken to the elders who reside on Hagara. According to them, our new guests, the Solari, More specifically, the one overseeing this monumental fleet, the Solari god Mozariko, has offered to help stabilize the infant. This would, of course, help ensure that the child survives, but would most likely accelerate its birth rate. Based on how fast they claim that they can travel, the energy required to bring the child to a healthy state, the chances are that Hagara would give birth the moment that the child was in a better condition. We believe that she's been holding the pregnancy in order to help sustain the child longer than she's supposed to. Can it do that? One of the council members said, standing from his seat. Just extend the pregnancy. We're unsure of the exact mechanics of it, the scientist replied. But it's clear that Hagara is placing itself under a great deal of stress in order to try and ensure the survival of its offspring. Yes, but one of the projections that was brought up during the display, another of the council members said, standing to his feet. One of them said that Hagara might just stay sleeping, that if the child is lost, it's possible that Hagara will simply reabsorb any radiation that it took, absorbing the child itself back into the system, which would re-stabilize Hagara's state, keep it asleep, possibly for hundreds of more years, even 1,000. Well, that is plausible. It's not something that we can verify. It's just a single possibility, the scientist replied. We have no idea if that is actually the case. At best rate, I'd say 1 in 10, maybe. At this point, I'd say that the choice we're being given is perfectly clear. It's either the child or all of us. No, that is not the choice we're giving you, the scientist replied, frantically trying to calm the man down. We don't know what's going to happen for certain. We could find a solution to this problem. Yes, and how long might that take? Another one of the council representatives said, as he stood joining the others. This child risks everything, our entire system. If you say there is a 1 in 10 chance that the loss of this infant would buy another 1,000 years for us to prepare, then I say that the choice has already been made. Delius grit his fists, holding them tightly, beginning to grind his teeth somewhat as he heard the man talking, all of them simply scared senseless, as Delius made his way forward. I request permission to speak, Delius said. You are not a council member, Delius. You are here to represent security of your individual people only. If your council member wishes to speak, they may. The men shouted back to Delius, as Delius turned to look at the elder, called in to represent this meeting, on behalf of the people of Hagara. If Delius wishes to speak, then I have nothing against it. He may do so. He is a well-trusted individual amongst our people. We believe in him both in his actions and the spirit of them. I have no problem with him speaking on our behalf. A few of the other members grunted to themselves for a moment, in a somewhat disgruntled tone. Fine then, Delius of Hagara, what is it that you wish to say? Delius took a breath for a moment, staring out at all of the concerned faces of scientists and politicians gathered here. Okay, listen, Delius said, trying to sound stern but empathetic. I know how you all feel right now. You're afraid. You're worried about your homes, your families, your children, the lives that you spent building everything that you have, the generations that went into it. But you need to stop trying to think of this as some sort of natural disaster. It is not a hurricane, nor a tornado. This is not an earthquake, nor is it some form of enemy trying to attack you. What you're talking about is trading the life of an innocent child in exchange for your own security. Think about that for a moment. This is not a natural disaster. It is a life, a living, breathing being. And not just that. You have heard from the scientific minds about the origins of Hagara and all other beings like it. You're talking about a creature that has existed longer than the known universe itself. Older than me or you or this planet. Older than everything. You're talking about a race, a species, of which there are few left in existence. For all we know, Hagara and its offspring could be the last of them, aside from the homeworld of the Solari. This is without question one of the rarest and most monumental beings that has ever existed. In all the universe, there are few other places that can say that they have ever even heard of such a being. And yet your thought is to simply kill it or allow it to die simply because you're worried, you're scared. Now I know this, I understand it, but understand this. It is in our most trying times that fear grips us the tightest. If you allow fear to control you, to control your actions, to rob you of your sense of right and wrong, then it is in those moments when fear grips you the tightest that you will commit the actions that you are most ashamed of. Actions that you cannot scrub from your mind, that will grip you all the days of your life, that will haunt you and your children and your children's children. Tales of how you, in your fright, in your panic, in your selfishness, killed one of the oldest beings in all the universe, a creature from which an untold amount could be learned, could be gained from interacting with peacefully, all because you were afraid. But this is also an opportunity for you to make the right choice. Do not let fear control you. Sometimes in order to do the right thing, chances must be taken. This is one of those times. It may be a chance, but I tell you now that it is one that we must take. Not simply for our sakes, but for all those that will come after us, that will look back on our actions and feel either shame or pride. When those descended from me look back on my actions, I hope they can look back and feel pride in the things that I have done. Will your descendants say the same? Delia said, as he once again took another deep breath, finally stepping away from the podium from which he spoke, returning to the background and allowing his elder to take back his state in front of the podium. There was some muttering amongst all of the scientists and diplomats gathered there. For some time they talked amongst themselves. Perhaps another 10 minutes passed by as Delius waited for an answer. What would they do? Finally, one of the council members stepped forward as all of the decisions seemed to be in, everyone deciding where they stood. The Interplanetary Council will now cast its vote for actions. Those in favor of allowing the Solari to save the offspring of Hagara, please indicate your favorable vote by raising your hand, the man said, as he looked about the room. There, Not a single hand raised. Only that of the elder of Hagara. All others remained low. "All right," the council member said. "Now, all of those in favor of Plan B, allowing the offspring to die, to do nothing, whilst we prepare for the worst case scenario. Please indicate your vote by raising your hand." As the man said it, every other hand in the council rose, one by one, most almost without any hesitation at all. The vote had been cast. "Then it is agreed, by the power of all council members here, we hereby reject the offer of aid from the Solari. We will allow the infant to pass, and in the meantime we will prepare, in case Hagara should have a negative reaction when this occurs. And in the best case scenario, nothing happens, and we gain another 1,000 years of peace before Hagara awakens, in which time we can seek out a solution for that," the council member said, as Delius stood enraged, so angry he could no longer even look at them, staring down at the ground in front of him. Suddenly and without warning, Delius simply turned and stormed his way out of the council hearing, pressing the doors open and leaving all of them behind.